Hi YouTube, it's Amber, it's Wednesday, and our topic this week is passing tips. I was watching a documentary over the weekend, and it's called The Science of Sex Appeal. It's by the Discovery Channel, and I found it on Netflix. It's pretty awesome. I would recommend it. They talk about the ways that we recognize that someone is male or female. One of the things that they talked about was body movement, and how body movement for a lot of people indicates whether someone's male or female. So they were talking about, they took basically gray mannequin kind of setups where there was no chest, no genitals at all, no face shape was kind of nothing, there was no hair, nothing to really indicate outwardly the gender of the sex or gender of the person. And they gave each of those little mannequins, these little digital mannequins, movement. And then they asked people to guess whether or not the person was male or female. And if I remember correctly, they had three of these little digital mannequins. One of them didn't really move their hips and had kind of a shoulder sway or shoulder swagger. Everyone said that person was male, pretty much everyone. Then they had another one where it had a smaller waist, larger hips, and had a hip sway, but not really much shoulder sway. Everyone said that that person was female. And they had one that was kind of in between. So what they really found was that if we see someone moving, but we don't see anything else about them. So if, for example, during the winter, someone's wearing a coat, if you put a man and the woman who wear the same size clothes in a coat, a nondescript coat and a pair of sweatpants, and had them walk down a road, pretty much everyone would be able to tell you, for the most part, or would be able to guess which person was male and which person was female because of how men and women move their bodies. Where it relates for trans guys, I think if you're able to change the way that you move to kind of still your hips and develop that sort of shoulder swagger that you see on cisgendered males, then a lot of people will see you as male even if everything else is not necessarily male. Even if your voice isn't that male, even if your clothing isn't super male, your hair isn't super male, just the body movement can help to sway people's opinion. Another thing they talked about in this documentary was about the golden ratio and how that all plays out in terms of sexual attraction, but that they found with women there's a really specific ratio that seems to help people recognize when someone is female, and it's the waist being 7/10 the size of the hips. So they found that ratio was one pretty normal. Like an average woman would have that ratio. Even if they were different size women, they would still kind of have that 7/10 ratio going on. But that men are built more boxy. So that sort of hourglass shape was an indicator for people of whether someone was male or female. So for our guys, what I think that really means is some of our guys who have some hips, who have that more hourglass shape, because there are a lot of trans guys who have a very feminine body shape, that dress can be a way to affect that. Dress can be a way to kind of draw the eye towards the shoulders, which for men, that's really what they want to do, is to draw the eye towards their shoulders and make their shoulders look wider and do what they can to make their hips look smaller, whether that's wearing slimming undergarments or it's wearing darker colored pants to try and do that. Also, to make your waist and hips look boxier, changing the cut of your pants will also do that. So, for example, I wear a woman's cut of jean. My husband wears a man's cut of jean where it's pretty much straight from the hip all the way down to the floor. And he doesn't really have that hourglass shape. But if he did, having that straight up and down along the sides will kind of help to create that boxy look. And then if you can make your shoulders look bigger, then it can help people to see sort of that, triangle shape that people associate with kind of the male from the waist up. So ways to work on the shoulder width. Some of it is in what you wear, patterns across the shoulders. A lot of men's shirts have patterns across the shoulders, so that can help to make the shoulders look wider and then hopefully make the hips look smaller. But I think one thing that we often don't talk about for trans guys who are newly out is practicing your walk and practicing moving like a man, because men and women move completely differently. So, I think this is where a packer can be really helpful, whether it's an actual packer or a rolled up pair of socks. But putting something in your pants to give you that simulation of having a penis, I think it can help a guy to adjust the way that he carries his hips, because men and women carry their hips differently. Also, watching guys on TV, watching guys when you're out places to see what a guy moves like can help to kind of cement what that movement should look like. Because I don't think we as men and women growing up that we think about how we're supposed to move, because the documentary kind of talked about men and women move the way that they move partly due to evolution, so we're naturally just going to move in certain ways. The other things that I think help for passing are haircut. So a lot of guys don't want to hear this, or a lot of people want to say that haircut doesn't matter, but I think it really does, especially if otherwise the person looks kind of ambiguous, then haircut can kind of be the sway towards the male direction. I think of before Shoe came out, we would be places and he'd be like standing at a counter and someone would kind of look up, like half look up and see short hair and go, "Oh, sir, give me just a minute." And then they'd look up and see that it wasn't a sir at the time, and people are always falling all over themselves. So haircut can go a ways to helping people see someone as male. Accessories can also go along with that too. So carrying a men's wallet, wearing a men's watch, wearing men's jewelry. Maybe the oddest thing that I have on my list is smell, but I think I don't know if men really do this as much as women do, but I think for women we associate, or at least I associate, men and women with there are smell associations. So I think it's important for a guy who is trying to pass to smell like a man, to use men's soap, men's deodorant, men's face wash, men's cologne, men's lotion, so that he smells like a dude. Because it can be a funny indicator. I think of being in line somewhere and having someone come up behind me in line, and sometimes you know whether or not they're male or female just by how they smell. So that can be something that can kind of help. I don't think it's a deal breaker if you really like a certain cologne, or you still have 4 months of body wash sitting in the closet to use women's body wash. But I think it can help when trying to pass. Also, it helps in passing if you have a large chest, like my husband does, is to wear a binder or something that can help minimize your chest. And a binder is a lot easier than, in the short term, is a lot easier than buying clothes that are 2 or 3 times bigger to try and mask that. Devin wears a Underworks 997, which is a full torso length, but it works pretty well. And it can be something that, putting the girls away can help someone to not perceive someone as male. For Stefan, he passes about 95% of the time, and 95 may even be not an accurate estimate. It's more like 98 to 99%. It's pretty rare for him to not pass. His voice is pretty deep now. He looks like a dude. He smells like a dude. He dresses like a dude. His hair is cut like a dude. So all indicators aside from his chest are that he's a dude. And I think most people, when everything else is in place, a lot of people will just ignore the chest because people are awkward about that stuff, and it's a personal thing, so people don't necessarily want to ask. He does still get stares sometimes because there are people who do recognize that they feel like something is off and they can't figure out what, and so they'll stare to try and figure it out. But the majority of people, I think, just kind of ignore his chest, really. Hope everyone's having a great week, and hopefully it's becoming fall where you are. It's slowly becoming fall here in Ohio. And we'll see everybody next week.